We're here to talk about e-construction. I think some of the other meetings, it was kind of obvious that not everybody understood what's happening. So today we want to go over the administrative directive, or George's directive, to do this again. Probably beginning of 2020, e-construction was mandated, and now it's very specific to use the 3 platforms. So we're going to do a quick overview or preview of the 3 platforms. We're going to talk about the projects onboarding, because that'll be more of the training that you'll get. Today is just overview. And then what we're doing with Highway C, with Highway O on continuing e-construction development. So what is e-construction? It is a paperless environment. So paperless being the operative word. Collection of review, approval, distribution of highway construction contract documents. And again, the contract documents don't just start in construction. They actually start way in planning and design. So be ready for that system to expand, not only from construction, but design. And as we look at drafting standards, all of those are construction contract documents. Then we'll be electronically capturing contract and construction data, electronic submission of the documentation, increased use of mobile devices, so iPhones and iPads, increased automation of document review and approval. So again, the platforms that we're going to show you today, and through the continued development, we want to make sure we're reviewing, approving, all of those things in the platform. When there's a required use for electronic signature, that we have that process in place, and that we want to make sure the documents are secure, workflow is managed, and it's accessible to all stakeholders. And I know right now you guys have portals to the public, and I would say I think the administration is going to move more and more in that direction. So don't be surprised if more and more dashboards are created to provide transparency to everything that's going on. So that's kind of e-construction. That is where the department is going. This is the memo that came out from George early this year, and the integration of Fax and Headlight occurred earlier this month. And so now you should be able to use all 3 platforms, so Fax, Headlight, and PlanGrid. And that's what we're going to talk about, what they're used for. You can see that if you don't have an item in your project, you should be executing a change order. Do it by force account. If you need support with that, let us know, let Highway C know, and we can make sure all that happens. And right there, Alex is the point of contact. I know he is still working with the vendors on enterprise agreements. And so project by project, you should be executing the change orders and starting to use the software. So this is the system. Fax is where you have your primary interface on all construction contract administration tasks. Headlight will be your diary. And I know a lot of you guys on the line have been using it, and it's changing. So I don't know if you've seen the changes, and there's more changes coming. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then PlanGrid has the as-built and the red lines. So this is what Fax looks like. It's the primary system where all our construction administration functions are going to exist. Have you used Fax before? Have you guys even seen Fax? Have you been exposed to it? Okay, so Jason's seen Fax, Ricky's seen Fax, Mark's seen Fax. Okay, so we had about 7, if we're including the hands, and then about maybe half and half. So it's kind of interesting. That's been about half and half that people have seen it or not seen it. What's included? There's an admin portal. So that's where some of the project admin occurs. There's also a portal that has data. There's a service area or module. This is where you're going to use, enter and process most of your data. And then there's a reports model. So let's go into that. So reports. And again, at the end, we're going to talk about how we're constantly improving that and getting feedback. So in the reports area, you can see there's an equipment summary, labor summary, your weekly statement of working days. This is where your pay estimates are going to be generated. Personally, we'd like to see more logs. So those are all the things that will be in development. Rain gauge, your B&P monthly compliance. This next one is the file cabinet. Again, in our procedures, we have our existing procedures that have the file cabinet because back in the day, we had actual file cabinets. So now we don't have file cabinets because we're paperless. It's all going to be in here, but we want to make sure all of our contract documents are in fax because that's where the contract is going to be archived. So our correspondence, the contract records, your NTP, your start date, any utility agreements, your certified payroll. And again, we're still working with civil rights that's doing B2G and checking, and we'll have to see how those things are going to get integrated. But we have our file cabinet. So with Highway C, what QRSC is doing is continuing to update the procedures. So hopefully we have a draft on the update of the diaries. So we'll have to update this as well, because you'll see there's AX, B, and then it jumps down to J, because a lot of the other files that we used to have are now in the services. So we no longer have a file cabinet because all of those items are in your service, your RFIs, your materials, your submittals, your diaries, your BMPs, change orders, they're all in the services. So we'll have to update this to reflect e-construction. So this is the file cabinet. Now we have our work reports and the payment. Alan's going to take it.
Okay, so one of the features we just wanted to step through of the many that you saw in the menus is doing a payment. Payments will come from work reports, all the quantities that you enter in that area. And one quick way to find all the work reports or diaries that apply to the pay period is to do this filter thing. Yeah. So when you enter work reports, you can turn this filter on and put your pay period number there, like in the right-hand box. And so down below, all the reports associated with that pay period will come up. And you can use this to check the quantities against what was entered into the pay estimate, which you would read as a report. And so in this example, there are two that apply. This is the entry in that work report, the first one that shows that these quantities were entered. The second report, it didn't include any quantities, but it had, description of the work. So people could read those to see what was going on. And this one really just covered these quantities. You can see that everything was selected per pay item, right? And the quantities entered. Okay, so on the next slide is the printout or view report that gets spit out when you are in the payment area or the report area. And you say, I think this one was the complete estimate package printout. So that's the one that has all the pay items listed. And so where all the zeros are, obviously that's where no quantity has been entered yet, but you see the highlighted items were those two. And I picked this one because it was the first payment. So everything else is zero, and just these two items show up. So you see the 34 eaches and what dollar amount that equates to. And then on the right, that $117,500,000 number is just, the lump sum dollar amount that was payable. Okay, so this is the printout of the summary page on the left, and then on the right is that cover sheet, right? So the numbers all add up, and on the lower left-hand corner, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a materials on hand number. So that is entered separately. That would be in this materials on hand section. So this is.
I have a question. As far as the quantities, so is it already integrated with Headlight, or is the quantities going to be inputted through fax?
So the quantities from Headlight will come over, and so you'll be checking to make sure it's what you want, right?
Okay, so it's
we'll
already
have to see.
integrated that way.
Yes, yeah.
As
So
a-
there will be that feed. I mean, that was the main point, is to get assistance, right, from the field entry straight into the payment, so that we don't have to do these kind of double entries. We may have to shift an ongoing project into this space where the software does this. You might be in a earlier area of Headlight, and it might need, your project may need to do a shift of some kind for this to happen. Okay, so anyway, this is the area where you would enter any kind of materials, where you have receipts. It's very similar to the work reports. So that's why, you see the selection of pay item, and you enter these amounts in the active sheet. I'm just kind of showing you what was entered in one. And then there's also an area where you can upload the receipt itself. So you have an attachment. There's a drag and drop kind of box. So anyway, we're just kind of doing a quick overview of the area just to show you some of the features. And when we have a project start up in the system, then you'll get a more detailed how-to session.
So yeah, Bill, I think when you do the onboarding, and Jennifer, are you guys using Headlight at all right now?
No, we're just still using fax. I think on the H1 viaduct we are going to use Headlight though.
Right. So when you're using fax right now, are you having issues with the quantities and the payout?
Not if everything matches, but like on a paving night, if you're paying by square foot, and the contractor's values are slightly different from the inspector's values, to come to that agreement, if we're going strictly on what they're entering into fax, that was a little bit like there are some kind of issues there. For Nimitz, I just did a end of the month work report for the payment. So I didn't have the inspectors apply the quantities to a specific payment. I just went through at the end of the month. And then when it matched up and, we came to agreement with the contractor, then I did the work report and payment that way.
And I think people are doing that as a workaround. So, all right. So the other cool innovation is being able to process the JC cards through the lab. And so this is a field where you would start to enter in your JC card. And at the very top, you would pick your sample type. Fax auto generates the JC number. And then there's under those sample types, when we do your project onboarding, there is a chart like sample type kind of data that you can print out of the data section that Keith showed me how to do. So this is where all your basic information would go, who took the sample. It also compares the sample taker to certifications with the lab. And so automation that's happening there, the time that it took, what district you're working with, and the method of acceptance. And so here is the information that you would be inputting for the actual field sample. If you were taking concrete, or, where did it come from? What material was it? What quantity did it represent? Manufacturer, brand, any pertinent facts, section, all the stuff that's on your current JC card. And this is just another area. I like there's little eyes information by those, and then the drop down. So that helps you understand what you're supposed to be putting in there. And then it would, who are you processing it to? So depending, I know we had the other older reference. So this one will have the certification requirement, addressing to who, and then it actually goes through a workflow with the lab to say, it goes to this person, and this person. So you would select the person, and then again, you would want to put what pay item it's associated with. So a lot of the entry points have these filters. So your pay items are going to be already in the system. You can filter by item description if you're looking for, a 36-inch drilled shaft or structural excavation, or you can filter, pick your item that's associated with that JC. And this is just a pop-up of the eye. So at the very bottom, it talks about how that's going to be accepted at the end of the project. So you can see Highway L, the designer. So it just gives you a way to track if all of your samples have been accepted, but I liked the fact that you can pull that information up and it kind of tells you more. So there's, I know that they're also working on FAQs and they're working on a help site, I guess a training site that would link from facts over to give you more direction on what you need. Part of this is a tool, the other part is the procedure and how we, how Highway C, how the state is processing these things and accepting these things. And then at the very bottom, you have a drag and drop to put your references. So if you're doing a COC, this is where you would put that. And you can see at the very, very bottom, you have resubmittal. So if it's associated with a previously rejected JC, then you would attach that here. So you have the whole string of potentially rejected JCs and then your final accepted JC. So that's the little preview. Again, there are those 4 kind of modules. You're going to operate primarily in the service module. Even, of course, we're just all learning this. Keith is the expert right now. Any questions on facts, basically? That's facts. And again, the follow-up when you're onboarding for your projects, you will get more in-depth training, more in-depth onboarding, and facts themselves have been very good with the support from what I've seen. So Headlight. So Headlight is going to be the interface in your diary. So this is what you're going to use in the field. And again, e-construction is constantly under development. And so it might look a little different. I think Alan was mentioning, to start you guys in what they have prepared now. There's a phase 2 that's going to be coming where it's going to be cleaned up a little more. We're hoping in the next couple months. So here's your next poll question. Have you used Headlight? What I've seen so far is we're about half and half, people that have used it, people that haven't used it. Again, I would say in the next, 6 months or so, as everybody's starting new projects, everybody's going to be using the 3 tools, and we're constantly in development right now. You're going to use it. There'll probably be a new feature. I know they're working on the DocuSign part and integrating that. I know we're looking for other added features, so it's going to be constantly moving forward. Okay, so let's see what it looks like. So Headlight is set up where you can do 2 inputs. One is a journal and the other is through Spreadsheet. So you can see in the journal entry, it's got audio, so you can add audio, you can add files, you can add a narrative. So that's what this narrative is. On the very right-hand side where it has the stationing, you can put a little caption of what's going on. You'll be able to tag it. So again, this is changing a little bit. You can, so if you have a potential claim, if you have work that was rejected and you want to tag that, then when you're searching within the system, within your project, you can look at those things. So work with your project team, your project manager or project engineer. And if something's going on, even if it's RFI, 7, and you can tag it. So that's kind of the cool stuff with this e-construction. Again, you can upload videos, images, start and stop. We've requested to add a safety journal entry. So that just keeps safety, as safety is one of our core values. It keeps safety in the forefront of our minds. So this is kind of what you're going to put. You're going to put the description and of course a pay item, because we want to attach to a pay item. This is a picture, as you can see. There's a caption on the right, and then again you have the tags on the right. So this is kind of your journal entries. So as we're going through this, for people that have used it, I'd love to hear or chat what you like about it or what you don't like about it. And we're going to talk about that at the end. Here's another one with traffic control. And so was labor required? Was the traffic control approved? And were all of the flaggers current with their current flagger cards? So this is the other input. So those are the journal entries. You basically put a plus sign and then the thing pops up, and then you would enter whatever you need to enter, whether it's a video, whether it's a picture. And this spreadsheet is the other way to do the entries. So in this example, we've got the equipment. The equipment is changing a little bit because what happens in Headlight, you do your diary, you will approve the diaries in Headlight. Once they're approved, they will go over to fax. So only approved diaries will show up in fax. But when they're tagged, anything that's in the diary will be searchable in fax. So that's the nice thing about having those tags, so that you can kind of pull up things that you might be looking for. So you can see there's a lot of entries here. These are some of the things that we have requested them to clean up, so you don't have to see so much. But there is a way to customize the views. So when we do your project onboarding, we can walk through that. Each individual will have to set up their projects and do that during their onboarding. But for when we did the diary training, we talked about having the equipment and annotating that by pay item. So on the very right, those little things, you can see the pay item, you can see the contractor. And what will be changing in the next couple months with the equipment, it'll be very specific, because what we want to do is attach the equipment to a contractor and a particular identification, because when you get the equipment rates from the contractor, we want to tie that equipment rate to that specific equipment. So the equipment labels will look a little different in the next version of this. You can see approved documents. We don't even know what that is. Those things are going to go away. So this will change. The interface will change a little bit, hopefully for the better. You can see that in the spreadsheet, you have equipment, personnel, work items. Work items is like your materials, and weather. So weather is like your rain gauge. And so some of the other things that we're working on with Headlight and Fax is just to make sure all of the labels are consistent, because I believe fax will call things items. In here, they'll call it pay items, and we want the labels to be consistent throughout, so it's very clear what information is here and what information is going to be going into fax. So anyway, this is a spreadsheet input. Again, you have the tag there. With equipment, we want to make sure that we're updating the e-construction special provision, because these templates that go into fax, and we're going to talk about it a little bit at the end, but the templates that go into fax will populate Headlight. So they're both integrated, and then you'll have your drop down and be able to choose that piece of equipment within your projects. PlanGrid Preview, primary system for as-built and red lines. Our poll question is, when was the last time you reviewed or marked up the red line as-built drawings? So one of the primary reasons for PlanGrid is to shorten our closeout periods. Okay. PlanGrid has a lot of functionality, and we have not quite figured out what exactly we want to use and what we don't want to use. And so at the minimum, we're gonna have it there to mark up our drawings and compare that to the contractor's drawings. Even to that point, we need to, probably this month, we need to figure out how we're gonna train and do that, because we could do it where the contractor's keeping their set, we're keeping our set, or we could do an overlay or versioning of pages. So I know Keith has some thoughts on how that's going to proceed, and we need to make some final decisions as everybody's rolling out. So it looks like this doesn't happen a lot. I think one of the reasons we want to do this is want to keep that up to date, and that way we're not waiting months and months and months on as-built drawings. So basically, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have your markups, right? So you're going to annotate in here. Again, there's probably some specification things that we need to do, procedures that we need to write. The tool is kind of driving this whole process. So right now we will be keeping our as-built in PlanGrid. And like I said, we'll work on how we're going to do that with the contractor. There's a versioning and overlaying. And so you can see you can have different colors. I think the concept might be that we're marking things up, that the contractor's marking up. And then once we have agreed that, yes, we agree this is it, then we're keeping track of our as-builts as we go. And so we don't have to wait at the very end, and we might accept those overlays and know that it's accepted. So that's the part we still need to figure out. Next. Of course, you can organize your plan sheets. So I kind of think of it in Adobe or in Bluebeam, whatever you use. You can have your bookmarks, you can have your tags, you can move sheets around, you can upload sheets. So if you have change orders, you can upload them. Again, you've got your version sets on the very bottom where you can filter by those things. On the very left, it shows that there's tasks, RFI, field reports, documents. So there's a lot of functionality within PlanGrid. Right now, we're just going to deal with sheets. But in the future, and as you guys are playing with it, definitely at the end, we have a feedback mechanism. And so you can provide input on what you can see these tools working for you. I kind of want to play with doing the BMP SWIP plans in PlanGrid and doing our updates and everything, so we all have it in the field. And then one of the other kind of cool features is this hyperlink. So again, I know Keith and Alex are working with design on drafting standards and how PlanGrid will be able to automatically read everything. Right now, it doesn't automatically read everything. That's a future initiative that's being worked on, but you can physically tag and link things. So if you have a detail and you want to make sure, okay, this is my detail now, where is that section view? And then you can automatically tag it so that in your system, everything's linked. So it's just very easy for you to navigate. So again, just like when you have paper and you put a tab on it, it's similar. Just depends how much you want to play with it or not. Again, we covered a brief overview of the software, why we're doing it, because we're being told to do it. Also, it being a federal highway everyday account initiative, and all of the fabulous technology that is going to be collected from this. I'm super excited about getting production data and being able to see what's going on other projects. So I see a lot of functionality in the future. You know, I know Art publishes his change order examples. Well, now we might be able to have read only, and we can see all the change orders, and you can search the system and look for things. So it really puts data at our fingertips. This is going to be the second training, is your project onboarding. And that's really when you're going to get trained on the various systems. So again, this is just an overview. This is the data that you'll need. And I know Claire and Keith were working on an onboarding checklist. Fax has their onboarding in the system, and Headlight has a similar onboarding. And so we'll have a checklist for you so that you get, you know, all the information you need. Again, with Ed's 14-day from NTP to start work, we're encouraging everybody to do this as soon as possible, way up front, so that you can have it set up. And then when the contract is getting awarded, you know exactly who the contractor is. You can start inputting that information. Ideally, this contractor labor and equipment list in Excel comes from the contractor. Right now, that is not written into the Econ special provision. So we're working on that update so that the contractor will be required to make sure they're maintaining their labor and equipment. There is a way to input that information in fax, but my personal preference is it's their equipment, it's their people. Why not make them do it? So these are the things you need. You need your contract award data, which might include permit numbers, you know, for NPDS or a SWIP, the general permit, DOH contract number itself. And then we have the templates, or the templates for labor and equipment are in fax. So that'll be another thing that needs to get filled out. Project staff, because they'll have to define roles within both systems, within fax and within Headlight. And then your bid tab data in Excel so that Keith can import that information into fax. So then you'll have all your pay items available. So this is kind of what's going to happen at onboarding. And then Greg, Headlight, ourselves will walk you through just getting set up in the system. So here's the information that are in the templates. Here's the required project information. So again, what I was mentioning with the change in Headlight, where you have a piece of equipment and it'll have some kind of ID or description, the contractor and a model number. When we get that information from the contractor, we usually are also getting pricing data. So in order to really produce contemporaneous production costs with labor, equipment, and materials, we need to attach the equipment to a cost. Same with the labor. and that can be checked against the B2G system, which is their labor compliance system. So we have all the information in there to do force accounts. So ideally, we can do force accounts without paper. Again, we're kind of developing and going that direction. And then your bid tab information, again, that's just so you can do your pay apps and attach your bid items to the diaries. And then from the diaries, get your estimated quantities and put that into the system so you can generate your pay apps. Okay, so again, this is a mandate. It is not voluntary. We are all doing it. All projects you can see starting this coming year will use all three systems. So not one system, all three systems that are starting this year are supposed to use all of it. If the project has already been bid, then you're supposed to be doing a change order. So here's the projects that we're looking at full integration, because the integration with Fax and Headlight was completed earlier this month. We wanted to get an idea of who and what and where these projects were and how much training and onboarding was going to be required for them. So here are the projects. The dates between March and May are magical because Headlight, again, we've been working with Headlight to update some things, clean up the interface a little bit, add the safety journal entry because safety is a core value. We wanted it front and center for you. Around May or June, there'll be another rollout of Headlight, June, July, somewhere around there. So these are the first projects that should be using Fax and Headlight. And Alan has been working with the construction engineers. So you can see the black Ys mean they were verified that they are going to use Headlight and Fax. And then the red Ys are committed but have not fully verified. We wanted to include this in the presentation. The presentation will be available on the wiki site. And so if this is one of your projects, or you think that these are one of your projects, then you can kind of flip through this presentation. And we're going to show you where the upcoming projects, if you haven't been introduced to the exterior portal where this information is being made available to the public, we're going to walk through that too. So you can see here's all the Big Island projects to use.
You'll see that there's no column here for PlanGrid, and that's because no one was in PlanGrid previously. These two columns to verify Fax and Headlight were just to see where people were. There were some that were half and half, and so some will go full blown into all three. Some projects may have dropped off the list. If you don't see your project here, it could be that you're too far along, like for this Lower Halava project listing, they're all grayed out because these are too far along already just in Fax and without Headlight. So they're going to finish out with just Fax and not do the full integration. So right now, Lower Halava is the only office that won't be in this first phase, but they do have a bunch of projects starting a little later in the year that will be fully integrated with everything. If you look through, there's about four pages of these lists to show what the first projects are that need to already be starting up with onboarding. And so this is our announcement today that these are the projects, and coordination will start very soon, since it is March, almost done, to get these projects started up and get you trained on the individual project. The blocks that are white, they all have the red Ys. I didn't color them green yet because I haven't been able to verify all of this with Cliff as far as whether these are all the projects or not. But from what we could see in the project listings and what he had sent forward, I believe these are the ones that you're going to start up.
So those were the ones that we're going to be looking for in the next couple months to do their onboarding. These are the other projects that will be coming. Again, as we go forward, everybody is doing all three. As we're transitioning, there was a little bit of confusion, so we just wanted to have that list to make sure we understood who is doing what. Alan's going to show you how to get this information from the website.
Okay, so in the future, basically for anything beyond this July timeframe, the data is constantly updated in Socrata. So the best way to know what is tracking toward getting to you is to come to this site There's a link here that you'll be able to click on once you get this slide set. And so it'll bring you to this page. So you can see the title of it right there, that historical, I don't know, state or Hawaii State GIS.maps or something. Anyway, so on this page, when you get here, there's a link that says go to PDF list of projects by area on the right-hand side. And when you click on that, it'll take you to the next page shown on the next slide. It'll look like this. And then there's one more click where it says here to see this PDF version of the active projects. And active projects will be both actually active in construction and future projects in the design and planning stages. This portal is for the public, basically. Anyone can come here and look to see what are the projects DOT Highways is planning for. So it's a resource for a lot of contractors to come and check and see what's potentially coming their way to bid on. And so if you click on that, you'll get a PDF, like I said. And what this slide is trying to show you is that you can take these PDFs and you can convert them to Excel, so you can filter and sort through the data, because it will be the entire state. And if you're only interested in your own, you probably want to edit off a bunch of things. And so in some of your more advanced PDF viewers, like we use Bluebeam. So Bluebeam has this method of exporting is the way to do it. So you can probably Google with whatever you have. Like I know Adobe Pro will do something very similar. I don't know the exact path, but if you need help with trying to do this, you can reach out. So for now, this seems to be the most up-to-date listing from this source of what's coming down the road at you. And after a while, after you've done this once, you'll pretty much have it down and you'll know what projects you're looking for. This is where the latest, greatest information will be found on future work.
We covered a little bit of the overview, the upcoming project onboarding, the projects that we're looking at, and now we're going to talk briefly about e-construction development or continual process improvement. So we absolutely need your feedback on good, bad, the ugly, everything, so that we can collect the data and make sure the tool is getting refined for you guys as a user. So we'll be looking for user input and follow up. There are existing regular working group meetings now with the lab, with Oahu, with neighbor islands. We are looking to potentially expand that for various other user groups. Again, if everybody's operating in the system rather than email, then design might need to be in there to do approvals or correspond. Traffic, if they're doing approvals of traffic control plans, might need to be in there. If some of your management is signing off on change orders or other things, again, that's not functional right this second, but hopefully will be coming. Everybody's got to operate in there. So we would need to create dashboards and ball and court so everybody knows where they need to go and what they need to do. All of this will be vetted through the construction committee updates. No more questions. So user input and follow-up, there's a Microsoft form that's on the wiki site, so you can provide your feedback there. Again, when you're participating in working groups, or any direction or updates will be on the wiki site. And at the very end, for those that want to stay, we can show you where it is. So again, this is kind of the structure that we're looking at working on, having our regular working groups. All of that goes to the construction committee briefings. We get your input. We make recommendations for decisions. We talk about what the priorities and the future initiatives might be. And then we'll go to the construction committee where the construction engineers will make those decisions. And then we'll cycle it back out on the wiki site to let you guys know what's coming. So this is it. That's the recap. So again, the administration has made clear direction that we are doing e-construction, not only one platform, but all of the platforms. They will all be integrated into the system, Facts, Headlight, PlanGrid, lots of functionality, still in progress. This was just an overview. So when you are actually starting your project, then you will be onboarding with your project team, getting more in-depth training on the 3 platforms. And this is a continual process that we're going to be updating, working with the working groups, updating the priorities and the initiatives, and just it's going to keep going and going and going. So change is here, constant development is here, and e-construction is here. So that's it.
Yeah, so once you guys enter the HDOT wiki site, if you click on training materials on the top menu, and when you scroll down, you'll see global e-construction. Right over here, we have the PowerPoint uploaded as well as the feedback form at the bottom. And then, of course, as we continue onboarding, then we'll upload the new content into the wiki site as well. But your guys' comments and feedback are very important as we continue implementing these new programs into e-construction.